Oh, hello everybody. Some old man here again. You know who I am. Old, spelled O-L-D-D. The spare letter is handy so you can drop either the L or the D and still be accurate. Today, we're going to take a peek into the garden again, respond to a viewer's question about the bees I introduced in the previous episode, talk about how I use Spreadsheet in my garden planning, and for just about everything else, watch while I put drip irrigation into the garden, and check out the HVAC guys installing a new AC and furnace system in my house. We'll start out by stepping into the garden for a quick look at the vegetables I put in on Monday.
Hello everyone, some old man back out in the garden. Well, today I'd like to go ahead and tell you about what I've been doing. Today I planted two of my garden beds, number 1 and number 5. Don't know if you can see the sticks in this picture, but it's a start. I do have some scattered plants elsewhere. I've got some plants garlic up in bed 3. And of course I've got bed number 7 and 9, which I planted last week down at the far end. Next, probably tomorrow, I will be finishing off planting in bed number 3, and I'll be getting down and putting vegetables in bed number 8 down here below the deck. I don't know if I'll also go ahead and put some in bed 2, but it's ready to go as well, so it's very likely that I will. But I do have a few blocks to put at the one end, and those are sitting out in the truck right now. I need to actually take the wheelbarrow out and unload them. Other than that, we're making very good progress here in the garden, so I'll definitely go ahead and post this today and let you know. Some old man, back to the computer.
One of my viewers contacted me to ask about the leafcutter bees that I showed you in Episode 8 on Sunday. He wanted to know how I decided on leaf cutters and why I used the company I did to source them. Also, he wanted to know why I placed the bee hut where I did. I've always known that pollinators in the garden were important. Up until now, I've depended on local bees and such to do the job. And for the most part, they've done well enough. Sometimes, though, pollination here in the suburbs is kind of spotty. I had considered the possibility of putting in a hive of honeybees. But that idea was quickly vetoed by my boss, my wife. She pointed out that neither the HOA nor the neighbors would appreciate it, and my land just really isn't large enough to justify it. I found out about cutter bees when it was mentioned on one of the gardening YouTube channels that I follow. Scott Head's Black Gumbo podcast had an episode on raising leafcutter bees for garden pollination. I'll include a link to the show notes to his episode, so if you'd like to go and check it out. I had heard the leaf cutters before, and his show interested me, so I started doing some research on the internet. I checked out the company he mentioned, Midas Bees out of South Dakota. They had even more information about leaf cutters since that's their specialty. Since it was a minor expense compared to all the other improvements that I'm going and putting in my garden this year, I ordered their smallest package. As to why I put the hive where I did, I placed it where I did so it would be central to the garden and up out of the way. We'll see if I made the right choice later in the spring and summer. Back in episode 4, I talked briefly about how I plan out my garden for the year. As I mentioned then, I'm a heavy user of spreadsheets to organize my information. And not just for gardening. I literally keep track of everything in a spreadsheet, from the garden and my dinner menu to my weight loss and blood pressure tracking, even this video blog. I won't say it's compulsive, but I do like to use spreadsheets. If the information isn't sensitive, I often put it up using Google Sheets, so it's available from anywhere on the internet. There are other things going on in my life besides getting the garden ready, though. Last week, we had our semi-annual air conditioning and heating checkup, which we have had for years. And wouldn't you know it, our AC had finally given up the ghost. It was going to cost a considerable amount just to repair it and recharge it because it used the old style of Freon. Very hard to get now. No, it's not really surprising that the thing was due to go bad. It was the original unit. It was installed with the house 20 years ago. We actually replaced the furnace that goes with it 9 years ago. And all this equipment has a expected nominal life of 10 years. So our options were replace the AC and wait on the furnace, or get the combined package, which cost about $3,000 more, and do the whole thing and get it done once and done. Considering that the furnace probably only had 1 to 4 more years of life based on how long the first one lasts, and it would have cost $6,000 to replace it if and when it goes out, we decided, the boss and I, that we'd put the money in and replace both. And today is the day. I've got some video to give you to show the crew replacing the AC unit.
Here we have the HVAC guys coming in and doing their job, putting in a brand new air conditioner. That unit is about twice as big as the old one that they pulled out just a little while ago. Right now the guys are underneath working on the furnace. But I haven't brought you over to this side of the yard. This is on the south side of the yard. Take a quick scan around. These are elderberry trees here along the south fence. I've trimmed those up here a little bit, and they're really blowing up this year. They're about 4 years old now, and I've gotten elderberries off them for the last couple of years. And as you can see, run my irrigation. But the big reason I came over here right now is to show the ongoing work with the air conditioning. Some old man signing off. And just to give you a size comparison, this is the old unit that new air conditioning is replacing. As you can see, kind of hard to get a perspective on it, but it is about half the volume or less than the big unit out there. And behind it is the furnace. I can't show you the new furnace because I ain't crawling down underneath the bed. But when I saw the new one come in, I just wondered how they were going to get it through the door. But they did it, and they said it slid right in.
I'm glad we found out about the bad AC unit when we did. It hasn't gotten hot yet, but those days are coming, and it's nice to have air conditioning on the hottest days. Back on the subject of the garden. Monday afternoon, I received the parts for the drip irrigation system. I did quite a bit of searching and researching on the internet before I decided to go with Drip Depot out of Oregon. There are several irrigation oriented outfits out there. This is the one I decided I liked best. I'll include a link in the show notes so you can check them out if you like. I chose them because they have a variety of different systems available. And more importantly, they have people who are willing to respond to your questions and promptly. It's not true of the big box stores, which is the local source. After I ordered the material, they had it shipped within a day or two. I'd like to say that I got it very quickly, but FedEx had a holdup somewhere in Cincinnati, caused it to delay several days. But yesterday, I finally got it. So now that I have the parts, it's time that I go ahead and get my garden some irrigation, because I'm planting and it's important to keep those plants watered. Watch me setting it up.
We're out in the backyard and I am running irrigation line. You can see the black irrigation line running all over the place here. This is my 1/2-inch main line that'll carry water out to the different beds, and I will plug into them with the quarter-inch emitter line. The big problem I'm finding working with the plastic tubing that this irrigation line is made out of is it does tend to kink quite badly as you're moving it. Hopefully those kinks will work their way out once I've got everything laid out straight. But right now I'm just trying to get it laid out so that we can actually feed to all the beds. Here's bed 10, which I haven't cleaned up yet, but it won't take long. It doesn't need a lot of extra soil in it. You can see the irrigation stub over there. I just need to stub out to where I can get an emitter line hooked up to it. Other than that, it'll be a plug. The rest of it is just running all around the yard. I've still got to go ahead and run a little bit more to actually connect it up to the water, but a couple of tees will take care of it, and I have additional shutoff valves that I can turn off sections, I hope, but we'll see what works out. I'll come back and we'll do some more video once we get to a little further along in the project. Some old man signing back to the computer. Well, I'm getting ready to hook things up here. As you can see, I went ahead and put in a Y at the faucet so that I can run the regular hose or the irrigation system, which I'm getting ready to hook up right now. That's probably the appropriate thing out of my pocket, if I can find it. Okay. And of course, for connecting up the hose, it has an adapter that I get to work on here if I can. If it'll go in. Of course, the directions did mention that it would work better if you soaked the tubing in warm water first, but I wanted to do it such that you could watch me do it on camera. If I can even get it to screw back on. And of course the thread is reversed here, so I'm turning clockwise and that loosens it. And the point of this, of course, is it's a lot easier than some of the hose fittings that you would normally replace here if you broke one, but it still doesn't make it easy. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the camera and see if I can't get this thing together while I'm not leaning over, and after we're done I'm going to move on to the next two. I've got some T's to put in and the end caps for the far ends of the hose, and then we'll be able to go ahead and go to the next step, which is connecting the emitter sidelines. So we'll pick up filming after we've got a little further along. Some old man. On to the next thing. Still having problems with the end fittings and the hose bib fitting, but I would like to go ahead and show you that I was able to put the T in really easy. So I have no complaints there. That is all I'm working on at the moment. I've got to get a pair of pliers to see if I can't get those end fittings working correctly. They don't want to engage, but we'll see if we can't get there here pretty quick. Well, I had to do something I really didn't want to do. I went back and looked at the directions, and the way I was trying to put these fittings on was incorrect. I had taken the screw coupler and put it down over the hose, and then was trying to slide it up and screw it in, and that's just wrong. The way you need to do it is have it all the way tight, slide the tubing over the end of it, and then loosen to clamp down. That's fit. Now we can go on and do the next thing, which is hooking up some of the emitters. The next step, of course, is putting our emitters in. And what I'm going to do for each of the beds is I'm going to take the emitter tubing, which is basically 1/4 inch tubing with a little pinprick every 6 inches. And I'm going to attach it to the main tubing and then take a loop completely around the bed. And the way we attach it, well, there's two pieces. We have to have the attachment point where it attaches into the main tubing, and we have to have the end point. The end point, we have a little end cap. I have to make sure I put that in right. Hold on a second and I will see if I can make sure I know what I'm doing. Okay, it wasn't that difficult. I just had to make sure I knew which end went where. This is the other end where it's going to go ahead and plug in to the main line. As you can see, I have a little valve with a double-ended spear point. One of them is going to go right in here in this tube, and I can't do it one-handed, so I'm going to have to go ahead and turn the camera off to actually attach it. And the other one, I've got a special hole punch tool there that will punch a hole into the main tube that will accept this jack fitting. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera, put it all together, and then I'll take another picture just to show you how this first one turned out. And then just for fun, I'll go ahead and turn on the water and see if it's watering the bed. Back in a few minutes, some old man. Well, you can see that I've got everything hooked up and running. You can see that the drip line is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It is dripping. Now, whether or not this is enough water to give the entire bed a good drink, we don't know yet. It's not the hottest part of the year by a long shot, but it's been over a day since I've watered out here, so we'll give it a little bit of a chance. It's been running now for a little over 5 minutes, and you can see some good wet spots on the ground where it is dripping. I'll give it a half an hour and see how it spreads. But I wanted to go ahead and show you that it isn't that hard to hook up the drip irrigation, at least once you understand how the parts go together. Now when I go ahead and put the drip lines in each of the other beds, I'll know what to do and it'll go quite a bit faster. Some old man headed back inside.
Right now, the entire garden, including the bushes on the south side of the house, are being watered by this one drip system. I'll be watching it for the next few weeks to see if there's sufficient flow to water the entire thing, or if I'll have to come up with a zone plan to divide it into separate areas and water a little bit at a time. It's a subject for a future vlog. If you think this content was interesting, leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe, and join me next time as I share my life and thoughts. Some old man signing off.